What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, this is a request that I had submitted to me a couple of days ago, and that is, what if Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan had been teammates? How would that have worked out? Now, of course, look, all of this is hypotheticals. We don't really know for sure. Um, all we can do is guess, and of course, that's just what I'm doing. I'm guessing. I don't know. Of course, they talked about this recently on Undisputed, and Skip Bayless said that they'd be the most unstoppable duo in the history of the NBA. And I'm going to say this: the potential is there. The potential is definitely there for them to be, quote unquote, the most unstoppable duo in NBA history. Um, Now, of course, people are going to think about Shaq and Kobe and how they repeated, despite the issues that they both had. You know, Kobe not really being comfortable with just being in that secondary role. Kobe wanted to assert himself offensively. Kobe wanted to be the man. Kobe also resenting the fact that he put so much work into perfecting his craft, whereas Shaq sometimes seemed to be, I don't want to say loafing it, but not working as hard. Okay, oftentimes showing up to training camp out of shape, playing more on his physical gifts, his size and strength, and the skill set that he developed over years, but not having to work quite as hard at it as Kobe. Shaq, on the other hand, felt slighted because he was the older player. He was the one who was the big, huge franchise altering signing, not Kobe. He felt he was a general, he was the leader. So there was this friction as to who is in control here. Who is the guy that's the man? The Lakers started off, I'm talking about the Kobe Shaq version of them, started off playing more inside, outside, but toward the end, they had reverted to playing more outside, inside, with Kobe taking more and more shots. Still won three championships though. But how would it work with Shaq and Jordan? Now, I'm going to assume people mean closer to Mike's prime, which would have been in the 1990s. And the only way I could see this working, obviously, if it's in Chicago. Now, Jordan wasn't the LeBron or KD type, as far as wanting to team up with other great players. Michael had a mental makeup very similar to Kobe. He wanted to beat you, not join up with other great players and form super teams. That's not how he was wired. So the only way I could see this working is if Shaq has shown a willingness and shown a desire to come over to Chicago. Let's say things just blew up in Orlando. Like, let's say uh, for instance, let's say after 95 instead of 96, something happened where, let's say he, instead of having a 4-year contract, he had a 3-year contract. And shit just went haywire in the offseason of 95. And he didn't feel wanted in Orlando. And Jerry West hadn't reached out to him yet. But let's say that Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause did. All right. Let's say Shaq had went public saying that he'd love to play with Chicago and play with Michael and such and such. Um, Being that Jordan uh, was just coming back himself, um, I'm not, look, let's say in that circumstance, Chicago does land Shaquille O'Neal. All right. Um, and Jordan is his teammate. Now, the pluses would be Jordan has already proven that he's a great player because he's already won 3 championships with him as the lead guy 91, 92, 93. Jordan would be in a different state in his career than Kobe was. Kobe was still trying to prove himself, trying to prove that he could win without Shaq. Jordan had already proved that. Now, you could say this. You could say, well, what if Jordan's trying to prove that he's still the same guy and he doesn't need help? Well, ultimately, Jordan did need more help after he came back. Those Bulls teams were more talented than the teams before. So he did need more help. But Jordan was a ruthless fucking dude who wanted to win every fucking year. So instead of them acquiring Dennis Rodman, hell, maybe they still acquire Dennis Rodman. I don't know. But let's say they land Shaquille O'Neal. Now, how would that work? Well, I'm assuming Shaq's going to, knowing who Michael Jordan is, he's going to accept that he's not the general here. Jordan is going to be the man. Okay. Shaq's going to be very respected, but that's going to be Mike's team. Um, Pippen, if he's still there, and this is just a free agent signing and not a trade, Pippen will no longer be relegated to having to be the secondary scorer. In this scenario, Pippen is going to be more of, he's going to be third scoring option. So his scoring average is probably going to drop down from 20-ish, 19 or 20, maybe down more to about 14, I'm thinking. But his assists are going to go way up. I think he's probably going to average maybe more around 8.5, 9.5 assists. Jordan's assists are going to go way up. Instead of averaging about 4 assists, because Jordan really played off the ball. That's another thing people don't quite understand about those Bulls teams. Even though Jordan did shoot the ball a lot, he only got the ball when he was in a scoring in the three-peat years. Jordan only really got the ball, especially the second three-peat. He only got the ball when he was in a position to score. A lot of times, he didn't bring the ball up a lot. A lot of times it'd been Ron Harper or Scottie Pippen. Jordan would get in the post in a position to score. They give it to him. He catch, feel for the defense, and shoot. That's what he would do a lot. Catch the ball in the post. He would get in the block on the post, feel for the defense, turn around, fade away. That's what he did a lot. He he didn't have the ball as often as people think he had it. So that's why his assist numbers dropped during the championship years because he didn't have the ball as much. And his role was just to be a primary scorer. Now, with Shaq playing, um, Jordan's and Pippen's roles would change a little bit. I think Pippen would primarily be a facilitator and he would focus more on defense. He will get his buckets, but he'll focus even more on defense than just passing. But the Bulls didn't really truly have a point guard, but I think Pippen, Harper, and Jordan would kind of share burden at the point guard duties. I think Jordan's assists would go up from 4 to about 6.6.5 or something like that. Um, Harper's would go up a little bit, and Shaq would feast. I mean, because the Bulls never had a guy like that before. The best center they ever had during the Jordan era was probably a faded Bill Cartwright. We're talking about Shaquille O'Neal in his prime, 315 pounds, 7 foot one, second most dominant center in the history of the NBA. Man, you couldn't really focus on just trying to contain Shaq because you got Michael Jordan on the team. And I think one thing that Jordan's going to do a better job of that Kobe was not as good at is Jordan, Kobe sometimes would force the issue offensively. Whereas Jordan, when he got older, especially the second three-peat, right? Jordan let the defense, uh, he let the game come to him. Okay, he didn't really force things for the most part, right? So with Shaq out there drawing so much attention from the defense, schemes and whatnot, Jordan's probably going to be even more efficient than he was then. What was he shooting? Well, close to 50. What I think the first year he came back full year, almost 50%. The second year, 49%. The third year he had some injury issues. He shot 46%, almost 47%. I wouldn't be surprised if Shaq on the team, he'd shoot more around between 52 to 54% from the floor. I think he'd be that much more efficient because it'd be even easier for him. And then Shaq's going to shoot over 60% every year, you know. Um, so the Bulls would probably win. They'd probably three-peat. And I wouldn't be surprised, being that Shaq's on the team, they'd probably keep Phil Jackson around one more year before they break that team up and then Shaq may go elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, but you never know. But they're definitely going to three-peat. There's no doubt in my mind that team would three-peat. Now, these are some of the caveats in this stuff. These are some of the things you got to worry about. Jordan was notorious for how he wanted the team to uh, prepare. Um, Jordan was a very competitive guy. He wasn't the guy that, you know, was Mr. Rogers out there. Okay. The one thing I think he'd get on Shaq, and I think they have some arguments about this, is his conditioning. But being that Shaq is a different level player, Jordan probably would a let some shit slide. Because the difference between Kobe and Mike is I think Kobe was just so Kobe at that time was more driven to win, but by his measures. By that I mean he wanted to emulate Michael Jordan. He wanted to be a winner, but he also wanted to be the guy getting most of the adulation. I'm not knocking Kobe, that's just a truth. He wanted to be the man. Jordan was more interested in fucking winning, I think, by that stage. Jordan was not as driven by stats. He wasn't driven by numbers as much as people remember, at least in the second three-peat. He was more interested in winning. That's it. That's the reason why he retired the second time, because Jordan was primarily driven by championships at that point. He didn't want uh, to be part of some rebuilding process. So yeah, if if letting Shaq off the hook a little bit with some shit, when you in return you're getting a dominant force who's going to get you on any given night, 27 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, domination in the paint. The only Achilles heel of the guy is that he wasn't a great foul shooter. That's it. But you know what? Historically, the Bulls were never a great free throw shooting team. People forget that. Unlike the Boston Celtics, unlike the Detroit Pistons in the 80s, unlike the Lakers for the most part, who were generally good free throw shooting teams, especially the Celtics, the Bulls were always amongst the bottom half of the NBA in free throw shooting. But it never affected them because it never really came down to a contest with free throws. Now, maybe Shaq could be a liability in certain situations, but for the most part, it's not going to come down to free throws because usually the Bulls were up by so much that didn't matter. And even if you played a free throw game, um, if you dominate the game in so many other ways anyway, if you're putting up 40 points and 15, 20 rebounds, the game should be in a position where it comes down to that. And even with that, you still usually making one out of two free throws. So you're still adding a point on average anyway. So you're still putting pressure on the defense, the opposition, to score anyway. So I know I'm kind of analyzing all over the place with this, but I think it could work. I could see it working. I could see Jordan at that stage having the maturity to adjust his game. He may not even consider. Look, at that point, and I know I do know this. The scoring championship was important to Jordan. I do think it was important for Mike to win scoring titles, but Mike was a smart guy who could adjust. Will Chamberlain, he adjusted to taking fewer and fewer shots by switching to a power game as he got older and making the most of the shot attempts. If I'm only getting 10 or 12 shots, then hell, I'm going to make these shots count. I'm not going to be shooting 16, 17-foot fadeaway jumpers, like I've been before back in my heyday with the Warriors. I'm going to switch to a power game. I'm going to primarily do putbacks, dunks. Jordan, I think if he was taking fewer shots because of the presence of Shaq, instead of him taking 20, 22, 23, 24, 25 shots a game, and maybe he was only taking 18 shots a game, guess what? Most of those shots are going to be mid range. I think he's going to take fewer threes than he already did. He's going to take it to the basket more. He'll get the foul line more. And he's still going to average about 30 points a game, or damn near, because he's going to make at least 10 out of those 18 shots or 19 shots, right? He's going to make 10 out of those 19 shots. Um, that's 20 points there. He's probably going to make at least 1 3 a game, so that's 21. And he's going to take it to the foul line more. And he's going to probably get to the line, I don't know, 8, 9 times, make 6, 7 or 8 of them. So he's still going to average 27, 28 points a game. And whatever it is that he needs to average to lead league in scoring, he's going to do it. Remember, we're talking about the defensive 90s, so 28 points a game was generally enough to win the scoring title in the late 90s. So he's still probably going to lead the league in scoring. Jordan's probably going to average 28. Shaq's going to average 27. Pippen's going to average 14. And they're going to have some other shooters on the team to make up for, the fact that you have a guy like Shaq on the team. You're going to need some shooters. So you're going to have Steve Kerr on the team. You're going to have the team that's pretty much already together, but I think they might have a few more three-point shooters. And the Bulls are still going to be a great goddamn team. Now, are they the greatest duo ever? Well, I mean, you can't say that. This is, we're just guessing here. You know what I'm saying? Um, The potential is there, but tell me what you guys think. Do you think that Shaq and Mike could work as a team, as a tandem? Tell me what you guys think.